All right, so last week we mentioned that today was the deadline for us to turn in the media preseason polls, what we thought 1 through 10, and also the preseason offense and defensive teams, and then even offensive and defensive players of the year, and then newcomer of the year. And so I asked you if you wanted to send me your votes, 1 through 10. It was very simple. 28 of you, which I spent the time to do this. I have my grid in front of me. 28 of you sent in your top 10. So you compile them just like you do the top 25 or anything else. And here are the results from you. Sikkim 365 Sports viewers, 2022 Big 12 preseason poll. There were 28, I believe, 28 different, let's see, 12, 16. I thought there was 28 people who voted. 2012, yeah, I think that's pretty close to it. Oklahoma with 280 votes. If you voted someone number 1, they get 10 points. If you voted for someone number 1 or number 10, they got a point. Baylor had more first-place votes. It's a Baylor most likely core audience. We understand that, but I thought this was very well done. You could argue about where the placements are. Baylor, 12 first-place votes, but they were voted like 3rd or 4th on about 5 or 6, 8 to 10 votes. Oklahoma State, right there at number 3. So the top 3 are kind of very close, and you thought would expect that. Kansas State was number 4. 4 first-place votes, 216 votes total. Texas got 4 first-place votes, 196 votes total. One of the Texas votes, and I appreciated this, was they're going to win the national title next year with Arch Manning. But this was the poll for this year. Texas Tech had 100.
That's bad news for Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like I was saying earlier with all this NIL talk. It's almost like, who's the Miami quarterback right now? Well, we know it's Van Dyke, but
yeah,
it's like, remember when Quinn Ewers mattered? Hadn't even played it down yet, and we're already on to Arch Manning. Like, it's just funny. It's just funny.
And then a lot of people have opinions, but this is from those of you who actually did listen to us and put this up. Number 5 UT at 196, Texas Tech at 6 with a bump with Joey McGuire. Right below that, Iowa State, the red-hot team from a year ago that a lot of people were on the last 2 to 3 years, and for pretty good reasons most of the time, 134. TCU, Sonny Dykes, the next coach, at 8. West Virginia at 9. West Virginia did get, they did not get a first-place vote. And at number 10, Kansas, 42. Now, what bumped them up from 28 would have been almost everybody had them at 10. I understand that. But there were about 3 or 4 votes that had them as high as number 7.
Okay, let me ask you about West Virginia, because I did a live stream on Friday with Golden Blue Dude. Really nice guy, had a blast doing that show with them. But their fans are, since Graham Harrell and JT Daniels have arrived on the scene, are very bullish. And he asked me what I thought about West Virginia finishing 2nd or 3rd in the Big 12. And I said, look, that to me is a stretch, because while I think Graham Harrell's an upgrade, I have no idea who JT Daniels is as a quarterback anymore. I have no idea. I can't base it on any kind of large amount of data of games that he's played, because this is his 3rd school. And if he'd played a lot of games, he wouldn't be on his 3rd school. I can only, understand your excitement because of how highly recruited he was 4 years ago. But that was 4 years ago. A lot can change in that time. And for JT Daniels, it's been being in Southern California and Athens, Georgia, and now in West Virginia. So I don't know how that is, but West Virginia fans, Smokey, I'm sure there's a couple that probably jumped out at you that said, "Oh wow, they're pretty bullish on their team this year." And
I think some of it's trolling, and I think some of it is actually genuine confidence. But you're talking about 4 years ago with JT Daniels. You know what he was doing 4 years ago? He was a true freshman that was throwing 14 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and basically throwing just barely over 50% completion percentage. So, if that's what you're going off of, I guess it's cool he had more touchdowns than interceptions, but wasn't really a great frequency. I mean, a couple years ago, obviously broke out a bit more. But yeah, he's a total wild card. I mean, he's a upgrade over, I believe, what they've had here recently. But yeah, I mean, there's not been a lot to really chew on there as of late. And a lot of it's just, I guess, hope and just belief that he's going to be the guy when he was at his best at Georgia, and that's going to translate. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm not that confident in that. And, Graham Harrell, he's in a roundabout way, I guess, a family friend through my sister or something. So, I hope that he does well because I know his wife, and she's a lovely, lovely girl. But, he's good. But, I mean, how good is he? Last we saw him, he was at USC, and then he had to wait a while to get a job after that. So, and you also look around the Big 12. I mean, when you're talking about new OCs, I don't know. I think other people are probably looking at Zach Kitley, and they're looking at, a couple of other guys that have entered the league. Jeff Lebby, for example, and so on. Sonny Dykes at TCU. So they're not alone in a little offensive renaissance being on the, appetizer list this year. So, yeah, I mean, I'm there. That's one of those teams that I'm a little bit torn on. I don't know whether to buy into this renewed hype and JT Daniels and Graham Harrell, or if I think it's just going to, be a little bit of a blessing, but not enough to put them at top half of the conference. I don't know about all that.
Well, that's what happened. Those were the voting, and I thought just kind of like all the fan bases we have in the chat room, it was pretty evenly distributed.
Hey.
I appreciate that. The 28 of you took 10 seconds or 20, 30 seconds a minute out of your time to send it to me in the text line. I appreciate that very much for you doing that.
And to be very clear, I feel the same way about Oklahoma. I feel the same way about Baylor. I mean, all these teams. Baylor, hey, got best season ever last year. They lost a ton off that team. And there's people that will tell you this team is better than last year's team. And then you get into the argument of, what does that mean record-wise? Does that mean, what does that mean exactly? Because last year's team was the best team they've ever assembled on a football field. So to be better than that, you'd have to do something really special. Oklahoma, I understand why they're the number one, but, man, they got a lot of questions. I mean, I get it, but, I get why they're excited. It's something new. Venable's been waiting a long time. Lebby's got a great offense, but I have questions. So, I go back to the Big 12 whenever we've talked about them, and I'm looking forward to media days here in a couple weeks because we'll really get to kind of get more in that zone. But this is shaping up to be a really fun and interesting and kind of wildly unpredictable year, I think. That's kind of what I'm expecting, and not so much of the sort of status quo that we've maybe become accustomed to, even though status quo is Oklahoma being voted number one in the preseason.
Yeah, but, and we said it last week, they have not had this kind of turnover in Norman since pre-Bob Stoops. It's been a while.
Let me ask you guys. Yeah, no, you're right. This is different. This is something that they had like Pittsburgh Steelers type, stability for many, many years with just a couple of coaches along the way. Let me ask you guys this.